Well, hello. I hope you're well. And I hope you're doing well. And I hope that you will do well in all aspects of life. I haven't done this for a while, but let's wrestle with the mic a little bit. As some folks jump in here, which is again, always take some time. We will. So we got that going. We're gonna do 7 questions today, and ideally, I would like to be done with this probably around 4 my time. Right. That's West Coast time. It's 2:46 right now, so share this out. I know I said yesterday that I was going to stream today earlier, but my schedule worked out in such a way where we could do it later. I haven't turned on a bunch of stuff. Partly because I rushed into my office. I was out and I rushed in here and I was like, okay, we gotta get set. We gotta do a stream. Come on, let's go. Let's go. So welcome, guys. Hit the like button if you haven't already, which it looks like you haven't. Bro, what is that? Turn that off. The way these Friday streams work is that I pick 7 questions, 5 questions, 11 questions, 10 questions, and then we go through them and people ask their questions. And not all questions that are asked are actually included in the number of questions, which is the title of this video. And then the ones that I think should be included are included. So drop a comment, say hello. What's up, Pizza Man? How you doing? The Pizza Man. I assume you like pizzas. Get a side camera going. What's up, Sean? How you doing, man? Seven is a holy number. Whatever that means. Can we ask questions here in the chat? Yes, that's the way that you're supposed to ask questions. It's not a call-in thing, so write in your question. I will do my best to answer it. No guarantees, in the sense that I have answers to all your questions, because I don't. I have a friend that sends me really interesting reels on Instagram. He was like, you should do an entire stream based on the reels I sent you. And I could. That's the thing. That's the crazy thing. I totally could do. Maybe I should do the one he just sent me, because it really bugged me a lot. Hi, Agape. How are you? Yes, things are going well. How was Bible study? Ask the people that were there. If you ask me, I'm going to tell you good. Look at that, Josh. That's right. It's very simple. It's still a decision. It's still a decision. You still have free will. You should do it. Okay, so no, because sometimes people send me reels that are. So I've seen this reel already. Sometimes people send me reels and uh, it's so weird responding to people because I know these people have good intentions, but I just so this channel I'm looking at is called Chosen and Free Co. The bio says chosen and free, become everything God's created you to be. And then it's got the founders and there's a podcast and all that stuff. 222,000 followers. They're following 7 people. I don't know any of the 7 people they're following. Okay, which is fine. So I want to play that reel for you guys and then tell you my opinions. Okay. This is a freebie, I guess. So okay, I'm gonna play it. It says, "It's fine. I'll just pray tomorrow." Hey, ladies, Jesus is not your boyfriend. Stop treating him like he is. And he's not some needy guy that's sitting there and going, "Man, she stood me up. I thought we were gonna have breakfast together." Like you guys realize, and so let me see, mute this. It's not. This video has 2,534,774 likes. And you should see the comments. Someone wrote, "Well, Jesus is black, so that ain't him." Wow. This made me cry. Yeah, it made me cry too because of how bad it is theologically. I wept over it. Like, you guys get what I'm saying, right? Like, stop treating God like he's some needy junior high kid. Like, Arthur, where's the duduk music? It's somewhere. I haven't had a copyright thing yet, but I suppose it's gonna come through the next couple of days because YouTube automatically will send me a copyright thing. But we'll see. Maybe I'll play it. You guys get what I'm talking about, right? I hope. Daily Wire's producer surprised Shapiro with reels and he reacts to them. Yeah, I know that. Do I have a group of trustworthy people that will send me stuff, compile it, and I can just respond to it? Just don't pick reels Pisabi sends you. Yeah, and that's... Hey, Joshua, how you doing? Bam, Liverpool plays Sunday. I don't like it when Liverpool plays Sunday, but it's an 8:30 game, so I can watch it and make it to church on time, but I can't go to the pub. Okay. Arthur, in Acts 8:39. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Acts 8:39. I'm going to consider this a question, okay? So we're going to... Okay. Bam. Question number 1. Here we go. In Acts 8:39, it says that the Spirit of the Lord carried Philip away, and then it goes on to say in verse 40 that Philip found himself at Azotus. Can we unpack this a bit? Yeah, it's called teleportation. I mean, that's probably the most reasonable conclusion on this text. There's no question about it, right? So he commanded the chariot to stop, and both went down, and he baptizes the Ethiopian eunuch. And then it says, and when they came up out of the water, the Spirit of the Lord carried Philip away, and the eunuch saw him no more. So it seems like he's standing there, and then he's gone, right? So the Spirit of the Lord carries him away. The eunuch doesn't know where he's at because he's just disappeared. And then he went on his way rejoicing, but Philip found himself at Azotus. And as he passed through, he preached the gospel to all the towns until he came to Caesarea. He's teleported. He's transported. That's what's going on. So if you want to look at the commentary here, when the baptism was completed, so on and so forth. Whatever happened to the Ethiopian eunuch after that is unknown. So yeah, I mean, these guys don't go into details, but it seems like that's exactly what happens. So that's a natural reading of that text. Unless someone's going to suggest something else, which I hope they don't, because that would be not a correct reading. Yeah, the Bible is exciting. Arthur, do you believe the Lord still does this today? I think God can do it. I don't see any reason why he couldn't be able to do it. I don't think anybody would argue that God can't do it. So I'm saying something that, people are going to agree with. I don't know. I don't know whether God does specific things like this. One of the reasons why we might say that God does this in Philip's world is that transportation is not the way it is, and maybe there's a need for God to do it because of the lack of transportation that they have, and we have transportation means, right? Like considering the fact that we can travel with airplanes and all that stuff. Maybe there's no need necessarily, but I can see in certain situations where they would be a need, and then God would do that if he wanted to. I just I've never really heard of it being done, like personal testimony. So, yeah. I think the video is trying to say that prayer is a communication between us and God desires communication with us. Yes, but Jesus is sitting there with a bow tie, hands kind of like extremely feminine. It's just dumb. There's so many better ways to explain and communicate. I mean, this is why, man, like these are the reasons. I'll give you an example, right? These are part of the reasons why people get attracted, like specifically within like from Protestant kind of circles, to things like Orthodoxy and Catholicism. They're more masculine. There's a masculinity issue. Do we not see that? Like, do we not see the fact that the sort of people that are getting attracted to guys like Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson, even though I'd put them in the same category on those issues because they have large male followers. They're very different individuals, but like, stop effeminizing everything. Like, it doesn't make sense. So I've seen a lot of reels where it's like me and the boys, like after prayer, and that's like, it's like an army, right? Like marching forward and stuff like that. That's the sort of stuff guys want to see. And I wouldn't say that's like, I might have a very similar criticism to that in the sense, like, just have a proper biblical understanding of what happens when we're praying, what's going on when we pursue God. Stop treating God as this needy boyfriend. God is not your boyfriend. And he's not needy for your attention. God is the eternal sustainer and maintainer of the universe. It is by the power of his word that everything holds together. Now, should we go and pray and seek God? Absolutely. That's what he's called us to do. All right. Can we have a quick debate? On what specifically? My time is very limited today, and I'm doing my 7 questions thing. So just let me know what you want to speak about. And I don't mind having a conversation with you. But people like debate language. Bradford at Anfield, unlucky ball. Yeah, I wish, man. I can't. Not this week. Saturday games, I'm there, but yeah, I mean, look, I don't think there's any. I might eat, you guys. I don't usually do this, but I haven't really eaten, and I need to eat. Why would God let babies Why would God let babies early, giving their soul a free ticket to heaven, but not to us? Why must some be tested and others not? Why would God allow babies to die early, giving their souls a free ticket to heaven, but not to us? Okay, we'll consider that a second question. So when is this a question you want to debate this? Like, what would be like? That's not a debating prompt. That's not a debate prompt. Like, what is your? If you want to call in and have a debate on that, I would like to know kind of what you'll be arguing for. You can't just ask a question and say it's a debate, right? Like, there needs to be a conclusion to that. Look, I'll consider it a question. Okay, I'll consider a question until you respond to that. I don't know. Here's I think what we would need to establish. Does God have the prerogative as the creator of the universe to allow things that might seem to be mysterious to us or even paradoxical and then not explain himself to us? I don't see why that would be something like that's, unreasonable. I don't think God has to tell us everything he's doing and the reason why he's doing it. It's not really for the debate, just the shower through. Is that explained in the Bible? It's not explained in the Bible. You don't have, do you read the Bible? If God is fair, why are some put through the test and others are not? I would challenge your understanding of fairness. Do you think fairness is allowing everybody to, everybody would have to go through the same stuff? That's a strange definition of fairness, because everybody's not the same. People react to things differently. People have different tolerances. People interact with things differently. The problem there is not your question. The problem there is not even your conclusion. The problem is your presupposition of what fairness is. God is, you can absolutely be fair and test people on different stuff. So consider a coach for a team, suppose a soccer team, let's just say, because that's my sport. And the coach puts his players through a different sort of training regimen and routine, and they all have a fair chance of getting onto the, say, team on Saturday. But they're all like different routines. You wouldn't say that's unfair. We would say that those individuals need different stuff to be game ready, and so they need different kinds of testing to be there. I think you have an oversimplistic view of fairness. Yeah. Okay, well, question 3. Can you explain how Jesus takes our sins on the cross? Aren't sins actions and not something that can be moved from the person to person? Thanks. Yeah, great question. Very good question. So let me pull up a couple of passages for you so that we know what's going on. So you're familiar with the passage that says, he who knew no sin became sin on our behalf so that we might become the righteousness of God. This is a subject that Christians misspeak about quite a bit. Jesus died and took the penalty of sin. Sin in the singular, capital S, general. And you got to go back to Genesis, right? You got to go back to Genesis when it speaks about, if you eat from this tree, you shall surely die. So there is a law put in place. If you eat from the tree, humanity, Adam and Eve, then you shall surely die. So the due punishment, the just punishment for sin, rebellion against God, because it's just one rebellion against God that Adam and Eve do, that humanity does. The proper punishment is death. So when Jesus dies, he dies to pay the penalty of human rebellion, period. Capital S, sin. I know we personalize it and we say, well, he took our sins upon him. Well, yeah, because all of our sins are included in that one rebellion. As a matter of fact, all of our sins are a result of the one rebellion that we have as human beings, and we rebel against him. Okay? And so the second part of your question is, aren't sins actions and not something that can be moved from person to person? So Jesus is paying the penalty for sin. Every time you sin, every time I sin, we deserve to die. That's the punishment. That's the due penalty of sin. And Jesus, once and for all, gave his life. So the book of Hebrews goes into explaining this properly. Once and for all offered up his life as a sacrifice for us, for every time we sin, the punishment, the just punishment for that is death. Okay, and so that's physical. It's physical death. It's spiritual death. It's both deaths. And Jesus died for that. If you want to follow up to that, I'll entertain it. But just we have to think about this in the way the Bible lays it out. So humanity sinned and therefore died, and what Jesus did by his death is refers that. Okay. Exactly my point. If everyone has different lives and experiences, it's unfair. So you think what fairness is that everybody should have the same exact life and experience. You do realize then we wouldn't be able to, we would be undistinguishable from each other. Like personal identity gets lost if we're all the same. Should I repeat that? By your definition of fairness, the way you've just laid it out here, you wouldn't even be able to tell the difference between me and you. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference between yourself and others. We would be the same. We would not even say we. And you've picked something to battle that is philosophically like really difficult to defend. I would suggest you pick something else. So this is a form of the problem of evil, but it's a pretty lousy one. It's a bad version of the problem of evil. There are a lot better versions of the problem of evil. Or you haven't like formulated it well. It could be like, oh, I have this thought. So here's my recommendation. Take a piece of paper, write this out, whatever this prompt is, and then try to turn it into a syllogism. Try to say, premise 1, premise 2, here's the conclusion. Because you got to show that it's problematic. It's not enough to say, this seems unfair. That's not an argument against God's existence. That just might be an argument against, like, you don't like the way God does things. But if you're going to make this an argument about God's existence, or you're going to make it an argument like God is not all good, your conclusion has to logically follow, or your induction has to follow, probabilistically, that God is not good based on this and this and that. So you might want to say something like, premise 1, fairness is the following, right? And then you define it the way you want to define it. And then you say premise 2, God allows people to have different experiences, and so therefore that leads to an unfair existence conclusion. Or you might have another premise or another 8 premises, and then you know whatever your conclusion is, then you get to your conclusion. Then God is unfair, and because God is unfair, he is by definition doesn't exist, or something like that. Can you put it in a bowl? Fork? My son is delivering me my food. Just give it. Thank you, young man. Appreciate it. I don't usually do this, but I'm starving. And if I don't eat, then I'm going to get agitated, and then I'm going to yell at you guys. I don't want to do that. But what I'm eating, actually, is a Eurasian sort of dish, and Armenians make it really well. It's called Monty. It's essentially a dumpling. And this is a homemade one that my sister-in-law and my wife and my kids and their kids made today. So that's got some sauces on there. It's a little meat. And yeah. I gotta mute myself when I'm eating. I hate it. Sorry, I'm chewing, guys. Just from my understanding, Christians still die physically. Correct, but remember the Bible says that it is through the death of Jesus where we proclaim, and it quotes a psalm, "O death, where is your sting?" Because even though Christians physically die, we will partake in the resurrection. And so we will be physically brought back to life onto glorification in living in glory, where the non-Christians will not have that experience. They won't have they'll be resurrected, but they won't have a glorified life. And people not saved still in hell. Okay, if Jesus didn't die on the cross, would people technically not go to any place after death? No, if Jesus didn't die on the cross, everybody would go to hell. Does God still show mercy to those he chooses, or strictly through faith are we saved? Those things are not, I'm going to count that as a question. Those things are not mutually exclusive from one another. They both can be true. That God shows mercy to those he, I'm not a Calvinist, but just God can choose people, and those people have faith and are saved through faith. So this is, oh, please don't, Arnold. Yeah, that's not those things aren't contradictory. Do you know any good arguments against salvation by faith alone, and how do you argue them? Argue against them? Well, there's a couple. Some of them are scriptural. So passages like Jesus separating the sheep and the goat, right hand, left hand side. Conversation about Jesus saying, you fed me and gave me water to drink, so on and so forth, and come into my kingdom. From James, that you're not saved by faith alone, is typically Calvinists. Catholics like to use that kind of reasoning. Most of the time, it seems like church history arguments. How do I argue against them? I argue against them by looking at the context of those texts and showing that's not what they're teaching. What do you think about the book God and Autonomy? I don't. I've never heard it. So no idea. What is salvation? Most people do. What? I don't even know what this question is. I'm gonna eat my Monty right now until you figure out what your question is. Also pronounced Monte. Here's a funny thing. I'm monitoring myself, and even though you guys can't hear me chewing, I can hear myself chewing in my ears, and it's annoying. I hate it. Hey, look, it's Doug from Pine Creek. Hey, Doug, I I'm gonna tell you something I'm about to drop. I think you'll like. What exactly died on the cross? Jesus, carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. If you think that's what people are, Doug, I guess so. If so, how can that pay for sins that the will, soul, and the mind? A person died on the cross. I mean, this seems to be committing some kind of a fallacy with like a parts and whole conversation philosophically, right? Um, Clearly, human beings, even just forget the conversation about Jesus. When I die, it would be really weird if you got up at my funeral, Doug, and said, here lies before you a collection of atoms. And, fats, maybe some proteins, mostly fats. That's an identity. It seems like there's an identity issue there. Now, with that said, Doug, here's what I would say. I'm about to drop. I don't talk about politics, but I'm going to drop a kind of it's a short and a reel. It's a stitch essentially of some political stuff. Just look for it, please. Probably sometime today that's going to drop, Doug, and I think you're going to like it. And I would appreciate it if you shared it out. Okay? I don't do much politics, but I'm going to do this because I think it's good. To follow through on this. Did Jesus' soul, spirit, will die on the cross? I think you're defining death maybe outside of the Bible's definition of what death is. The Bible defines death as the ceasing of the functions of the body, like your soul or your spirit doesn't stop existing when somebody dies, right? Death is defined in the Bible by a very physical definition. So, his heart stopped beating, and he died. His brain activity ceased. The punishment for sin, originally in Genesis, is a physical death, you guys. Right? So when human beings sin, and God says they cannot have access, I'm not even going to argue and debate whether that's literal or not. Regardless, they can't have access to the tree of life lest they live forever. The idea is that now, because of that, comes physical death. And Jesus overcame that. And the fact of the redemption and resurrection is that we get physical bodies to live forever with God. Like, that's what resurrection means. But you don't believe the soul, spirit live forever. I do believe the soul and the spirit live forever. I don't think the soul and the spirit live forever disembodied. I don't think that's biblical teaching. The resurrection, end of the book of Revelation, God creates a new heaven and a new earth, and the people live with him. His people live with him on the new heaven and the new earth with physical bodies, just like Jesus, who was resurrected physically, not just immaterially. Oh, it's very easy. So this question, I'm including all these in the fifth question. But so if death is physical, how can the death of a physical pay for the sins of the will? The way it pays for it is that Jesus lived a perfect human life, and there was no just punishment on him to die. Remember, Jesus didn't sin, and by not sinning, he didn't deserve to die, according to that first command that was given to Adam. If you eat from the tree, you shall surely die. This is why the temptation of Jesus is important. This is why Jesus overcomes Satan, the great tempter, and Adam did not. Jesus is faithful and therefore doesn't sin and doesn't deserve to die as a result, but he still chooses to sacrifice himself because the one who knew no sin became sin on our behalf. That's the idea. Hey, what's up, Jacobson? How you doing, man? This is going to be the longest meal of my life. There's some weirdos out there that are probably like, oh, we like to hear him chew. Oh man. Buds, you need a body and a spirit to have a soul. If separate them, you don't have a soul. Syrup, you might want to do some reading into the Christian dialogue on the philosophical theology of dualism or even tripartism. Um, there's something off in your definition. I highly recommend you read the book Philosophical Foundations for a Christian Worldview. I mean, don't read the book, just go to the section on the soul and check that out and see what debates actually are, because you're not even representing any of the debates. It seems to me that these are just your thoughts and they're not well articulated. Do you believe Mary was sinless? No, I do not believe Mary was sinless. I personally don't, because I think scripture completely argues against it. Yeah, I don't think Mary's sinless. Read how Adam was created. Adam was created by God taking the dirt of the earth and breathing life, forming him and breathing life into him. That doesn't tell us what a soul is. Hit the like button. Man, stop reading the King James. Like, if you don't know the English, like, then he became a living soul means he became a living person. You're Armenian. We use the same way that the Hebrew is and the Greek is the way we speak about it, right? Like, so if I, for example, if I asked you in Armenian, how many people are in a room, I would say how many hokis, which is literally translated to soul or spirit or persons, right? So hoki is the word. That's all the Bible's doing. It's just telling you he became a living person. And don't get like all confused about this word soul. The word soul is used multiple ways in the Bible. Sometimes it's just a reference to people. Sometimes it's a reference to the immaterial person. Okay? It just, these are linguistic things that are very easily answered. Doug, I think you're committing um so the Bible doesn't have this Gnostic view of like this complete separation between like the sins of the soul versus the sins of the body. The person, which is the center of identity, and I, sins. Okay, some of those sins are immaterial, like internal, let's just say, thoughts and stuff like that, lust of the heart, so on. And some of the most sins we commit are actually with our physical bodies, right? because it's what we put into practice in the real world. And so we sin as persons, and so therefore the punishment that's taken by Jesus is taken on in his person. The way you're explaining this is a Gnostic. There's a Gnostic presupposition in there that Christians deny, and they should bring back the dislike button. Okay. We have a spirit, a soul, and a body. Correct. Nobody denies that we have a spirit, a soul, and a body, but they explain it differently. That's why there is a tripartite explanation, which is what you're saying, and then there's a dualistic explanation, where the spirit is a different capacity, and the soul is the person, and then your body is your physical aspect. You assert these things as though all Christians agree with it. But even if all Christians agreed with, like, say, a tripartite view, which is not, it's the minority view, it doesn't follow some of the stuff you're saying. Like, oh, he became a living soul, just means he became a person. There's a human being. Like, your interpretation's still wrong, even if you have a tripartite view, and you can have a tripartite view, that's fine. I don't. But your reading is incorrect. Just take that. Receive it well, okay? I mean, I'm not saying that as a jerk. Can a robot sin? No, because robots don't have free will. They're not agents. The robots are not personal agents. Okay, Josh, we're gonna give you question number 6. Oh, I said 7 questions. Huh? I think we're gonna go beyond that. Let's see. We're doing good on time. Can you maybe explain the difference between the soul and the spirit? I have a hard time understanding the difference. Sure. I'm going to explain it with my own view, and then again, I will recommend that you guys read the section on um, the soul and the spirit conversation and the philosophical foundations for a Christian worldview, or a philosophy of religion. Um, or a dictionary of philosophy, or a dictionary of religious dogma, or something like that, and see how scholars distinguish between these things. But here's the way I will put it: your body is your physical parts. Your soul is who you are, and your spirit is what you use to relate to God. Your spirit is to your relationship with God, to what your eyes are to your soul. Okay, so your eyes, we have the capacity to see, but we need the physical parts. An eye to see through, you can think of it that way. And in order for us to relate to God, we need an immaterial thing that relates to God, right? So this is what's generally called our spirit. And your soul is where your identity is. Your soul could include a lot more stuff than that, but I think that's a pretty decent kind of rundown. Try to read some articles on this. Try to read some books, even that. I mean, try to get a book that has a debate on the subject. Where Christians are debating whether one view is more correct than the other. That would be probably helpful. So Phyllis, good question. So there's some linguistic issues here that are very important, right? Like, so in Armenian, we don't have two different words for soul and spirit. In Armenian, we just have one word, and it's hoki. Um, and it gets interchangeably used. So, in the English language, I would say no. It's not just your spirit that goes up to heaven; it's your soul. It's who you are. Um, you're so yeah. I'll stop there. Hey, what's up, Tony? I sent you an Instagram message, by the way. Top recommendation for books regarding how to interpret the Bible. Number 2, philosophy and Christianity. Also, keep up the good work, brother. Thank you. Um, so yes, I have one of them sitting right in front of me. Top books for regarding interpreting the Bible. Now, this is a textbook. This also has a workbook. I will recommend this book until another book is presented to me that's way more comprehensive and better than this book. This is called Introduction to Biblical Interpretation by Klein, Blomberg, and Hubbard. It's a heavy read. It's an academic read. So know what you're getting yourself into if you're going to get this. Get the workbook. Run through the workbook if you're interested in that. It's going to be very, very detailed, genres, subgenres, all of that. The link to buying this book on Amazon is in any one of my videos that are on biblical interpretation. The How to Study the Bible series that I have, that I might change the title to. But the other book that's an easier book to read is called How to Read the Bible for All It's Worth. Okay. And that's a great book, and it's a great introductory text. So I recommend that book. Those 2 books, How to Read the Bible for All It's Worth, and then Introduction to Biblical Interpretation. Number 2, philosophy in Christianity. So I'm confused as to whether this is what kind of a book this would be. Like, would it be a book on the philosophy or philosophical ideas in Christianity? Or would it be an argument that we need to use philosophy in Christianity? I'm not sure, but here's what I'll say. Again, don't be intimidated by the size of this book, folks. You don't have to sit in one reading, or you can read it sectionally, right? So, Philosophical Foundations for a Christian Worldview by J.P. Moreland and Dr. William Lane Craig. Dr. J.P. Moreland and Dr. William Lane Craig. I've had Dr. Moreland on twice on our channel. I have 2 interviews with him. Go check those out. This is the 2nd edition, expanded, and the way it's going to break it down is philosophical categories. So, for example, introduction. What is philosophy? Number 2, argumentation and logic. Part 2, epistemology. Part 3, metaphysics. Part 4, philosophy of science. Part 5, ethics. Part 6, philosophy of religion and philosophical theology is the main sections of the book. Again, you can read your ethics section and then stop and not read it for 3 months and go back and read metaphysics. You can read it in different orders. There is a aspect of this book that speaks about what is philosophy and whether we should use it or stuff like that. Now, if you don't want maybe as dense of a book as this, there's also this book. It's not as crazy as you might think, but it's by Paul Copan. It's called Loving Wisdom, Philosophy and Christian Faith. So this might be kind of sort of what you're asking for. So recommended. Paul, again, a person who's been on this channel, great scholar. I know people know him for his kind of apologetic work. Quite a people know Paul Copan because he's written books on, did God really command genocide? Is God a moral monster? The recent one that came out was, is God a vindictive bully? It's a 3-part book essentially on Old Testament stuff. But Paul's a great philosopher. This is a phenomenal book. And he was gracious enough to sign this book for me. So that's always cool. Proof. So I'll go through kind of what this is about. So here are just the titles. The blessing of the blessings of philosophy. Essentially, that's an argument that philosophy should be used. Philosophy and scripture, faith and religion, kings and priests, the need for God, wired for God. And then there's that's preliminary stuff. And then there's part 1 is on God. It's on the Trinity, divine attributes, so on and so forth. Number 2, creation. Number 3, fall. That's just the way it's done. So you can use it as a systematic theology kind of book as well, but it's from a philosophical perspective. Okay, so Loving Wisdom, Philosophy, and Christian Faith by Paul Copan. You can check that out. But one of my all-time favorite books, and this is something you can read really quickly, is Love Your God with All Your Mind by J.P. Moreland. This is a book that includes a good amount of this stuff, and then what it will do, Tony, is this awakened my mind to loving God with my mind, because God's called me to love him with my mind. It's a phenomenal book. As a matter of fact, there's a whole section on the soul and dualism in this book. That's a philosophical treatment of it, or a philosophical theology. I should add that Dr. William Lane Craig is working on kind of his life's gem out of all the books he's worked on. But it is a series of books that's going to be a philosophical, a systematic philosophical theology book, or books. So, but if somebody's just starting out, read this book. I've never recommended this book to someone who's actually read it, who's come back to me and said, man, what a lousy book. I've read this book multiple times. You probably will need to read it multiple times, but it's life-changing. So, a lot believe that the Psalms are inspired by the Spirit of Christ in Hades? That's nonsense. Who believes this? Where did you even get this from, man? Hey, for sure, man. God is with you. I don't want to say God be with you, but God is with you. Okay. Nice. Oh, I should add, Tony, in my description box, there's a book recommendation, a recommended books links that I've put, and they're separated into different categories and stuff, so you might want to check that out. What's the name of which book? I just spoke about a bunch of books, Arnold. I'm going to go back to a question that was asked, and we'll add this to our 7th question. Not like you get to be the 7th of the day. It says, what kind of text or history is there of the Israelites in Egypt during Moses' time, as in the view from Egyptians' viewpoint? I don't think there is any, unless I've missed some stuff. But one of the things that critics will, skeptics, let's just say, will bring up against the Exodus story is they say we don't have literature, we don't have any surviving documentations that the Israelites were actually slaves in Egypt. So I will just say I don't think there is any. And if there is, and I'm wrong about that, folks, feel free to correct me on that. It's in the fathers, like the church fathers. They're wrong. I mean, the Psalms are being inspired by Jesus in Hades. That makes zero sense. And whoever said that, I'd like to know which father said that. Love Your God with All Your Mind by J.P. Moreland, Arnold. Oh man, that's actually good. Let me not lie to you guys. I haven't read all these books. Um, some of them are just reference books, and then some of them I haven't read. Some of them I've bought, and I was like, I'm gonna read them. You know, like for example, I just bought this whole set. It's like 20 something books, 24 books or something like that. And it's not even the full set, but I want to collect the full set. Partly because I want to have resources to give to people. And the other part is whenever I come across questions. Now that's a counterpoint series. So what I like about them is that whenever there's a subject, let's say the subject of hell, there's a book on there about the debate on hell. So I pick it up, I go through it, I know what's going on. So at the very least, it's an introduction to know what the dialogue actually is about, rather than just kind of thinking you know what it's about. So there's a lot of books I haven't read, obviously. Um, yeah, I, doing a bookshelf tour would be weird in the sense that I wouldn't want to like by each book, but it's a good idea. Do you have Morris on the Book of John? It's part of the NICNT. No, um, I don't have that comment. Most of my commentaries are digital. They're in my Logos library. Um, I think I have. Man, where's my Hachik has one of them. I think I have the Isaiah commentary from the NICNT, or not the NT, not the New Testament, Old Testament, but no. Hey, Art, long time. It's Buck Yo Mama. Sorry, I don't remember who you are. I don't remember. From where? If you're gonna tell me Periscope days, I'm gonna give a crowd cheering. Yeah, I. Sorry, man. And that's like I'm just drawing a blank here. When was this? Yeah.
Sorry, man. Forgive me. We're good. I remember you now. You've changed your name so many times. You're right. Does anyone watch T-Jump? No, I don't watch T-Jump. I have a hard time watching T-Jump. If I'm going to spend my time watching T-Jump, I'd rather watch Doug Frun. From Willow Creek. Is Doug still in here? Yo ho ho, look who it is, ladies and gentlemen. Give it up. Give it up for this man. Hey, Radar. I'm listening to. I got back into listening to one of my favorite podcasts, the history of philosophy without any gaps, and I'm in a section where we're paying attention to Jewish philosophers from the Islamic world. As I'm about an episode away from a whole focus on Moses Maimonides, but man, some of these guys have really wacky ideas. As do some of the Christians and as do some of the Muslims. Quite a bit of them, they only get wacky if they go in like full throttle into Neoplatonism. I don't know if you've done any reading. I don't know. I know you pay attention to rabbinic stuff, but I don't know if you pay attention to the philosophical aspect of it or how those traditions have been deal with that stuff. Yeah, man, I definitely give Doug a shout out. I have no issues giving Doug a shout out, you guys. I know he's kind of changed course and he's not talking about religion as much. He's talking about, the woke mind virus, as Elon Musk puts it. Yeah. Maimonides perverted the Torah. Not surprised. Hey Noah, how you doing? Arthur, do you think the Bible teaches that Christians ought to try and make the nation they live in something like a theocracy or Christian nation? No. No, I do not think that the Bible calls us to have a theocratic nation. So therefore, I'm not a theonomist. That's what the position is called. Now, theonomists won't say it's like necessarily theocratic. So maybe a person to listen to this to get first-hand information from is someone like Doug Wilson. But I'm not a theonomist. I don't think the Bible teaches that. But I do think that Christians should influence the nation to have Christian values and biblical principles instilled in its place, because those things are true. Maybe the better way to put it is, I don't think that we are required to make the nation, the national laws, Old Testament laws. Good question. Almost done with my food. An hour later. Why do you call him Rambam? What is the biblical definition of faith? Faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. That's it right there. A very simple definition of faith is trust. That's a biblical definition. Rambam is the acronym of his Hebrew name, Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon, Moses Maimonides. Okay. I didn't know that. Hey, see? You guys see? I learned stuff too. I'm not just here to teach. I'm also here to learn. I feel like I often struggle with how involved politically I should be, to be honest. That's good. Look, if you're not struggling with how involved you should be politically, you're not being biblical in my mind. If you're a person who just says whatever the Republicans say is gospel, and if you're a person who says whatever the Democrats say is gospel, you are in danger of idolatry. Do you understand? It is the person who struggles with it. It's the person who says, man, like they're saying stuff that I think is biblical, and they're saying stuff that I think is biblical. I got to weigh it, and which one do I want to put my support? Then you are biblically thinking. So I'm happy, Noah. I'm happy that you struggle with this. You should struggle with it. I struggle with it. Because remember, we are passersby. Remember that we are living in this world as aliens, that our citizenship is actually of the kingdom above, God's kingdom. That's what we're seriously citizens of. And we're exiles here. You could think of it that way. So shout out to Preston Sprinkle for exiles in Babylon, is the way he puts it. And I think that's a pretty good idea. We are exiles in Babylon. And so we struggle with what it looks like to live in Babylon. If there's no struggle, that's the problem. I have a huge problem when I see Christians who just, their national identity is equal to their Christian identity. That's a problem. So I'm happy, Noah. You should thank God you struggle with it. Many don't. Thank you, Radar. I appreciate that, brother. Hey, what's up, Jerome? How you doing? Did you get on your train and arrive where you were supposed to arrive? Kevin says, facts. Yes. I vote based on morals. Okay. The soul can be destroyed. Don't be afraid of those who can kill the body, but not the soul. Rather be afraid of him that can destroy the soul and body in hellfire. Okay. That leads me to an announcement. The announcement is this. Next week, I will post about this and we'll generate the stream and get the thumbnail and all that stuff. But next week, I'm going to have my friend, the very Reverend Nick Quint, on here, and we're going to be talking about hell and universalism. Hell and universalism. So some of that will be a part of that conversation. We got to come up with a time where that's best to do, but he's going to be on. We're going to be having a conversation on that. Yeah, should be very exciting. I'm sure it's been. Was the train comfortable? Thank you for allowing me to eat and not complaining and saying stuff. I hate it. I hate eating on screen, as you probably could tell. Some people are like super fine with it, and they'll be like eating and burping and stuff like that, and I can't stand that stuff. But I was hungry enough to know that it was going to affect my my mental capabilities. So that's why my wife was like, "The food's ready." I was like, "Can you please have it in my office?" What is a good marker for when to leave a conversation with someone? For example, if you perceive that they aren't actually listening and responding, but are just waiting to disagree, that's a good example. If people lose their cool, name calling, if I correct someone on the same issue multiple times, so if I'm speaking and then somebody says, what you're saying is da 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 da, right? And then I go, well, no, you just please listen to me better. That's not what I'm trying to say, and that's not what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying, and they kind of repeat it. At one point in that conversation, I might stop and say, "Look, man, this isn't going anywhere. Okay, this isn't going anywhere because I'm trying to communicate with you here, and you're not listening." And so it ends. Yeah, if people get really angry and start cussing and stuff like that, I'm done. I'm checked out. If I feel like the person really isn't listening to me at all and all they're concerned about is just telling me what they believe, I'm checked out. I'll be checked out in 5 minutes, right? So there's a number of markers you can, and it really depends who I'm talking to. It could be that if I'm talking to, someone who's genuinely, that I feel like someone who's genuinely interested in all that stuff, I might tolerate some of those things, or somebody who's maybe interested but not very knowledgeable in all of that. I think burping is kind of wild. But yeah, definitely not doing that. I just don't. Some people will be on the dinner table and they'll be eating and they'll just burp. That gets under my skin. Sirap is Armenian. We can't even hear you eat. Great. That was the whole point, man. We were there for 3 hours and one of the connection trains got canceled. Ooh, okay. I like this. Jesus spoke to a lot of people, but he didn't speak to everyone. That's correct. Sirap is Gaelic for stumbling block. I don't want to be ignorant, but what do you mean by universalism? Well, the universalism that we're going to be speaking about is essentially the idea that hell will be emptied in the sense of everybody will be saved eventually. That's the idea. That's what universalism usually teaches, unless people qualify it to mean something else. But yeah, there's some interesting conversations that are going to happen. Hey, you guys, I think I was like 2 away from hitting how many subscribers do we have? If you guys are here and haven't subscribed, do so, please. This is like the best channel ever. So we lost a subscriber. We lost a subscriber since the stream began. So we are at 5,000. I was about to say 5 million. I wish. 5,797 subscribers. 3 more and we make it to 5,800, which gets us closer to 6,000. And we'll do something when we hit 6,000. I've given stuff away. We've done various things. So 6,000 will be a really nice marker to hit. Arthur, have you heard the recent news on the Shroud of Turin? Saw Ruslan do something on it, saw some posts about it, but I can't say I've done specific research into it. But yeah. Isn't universalism heresy? I think so. I think that's a different gospel. I think it's heretical. But there are 2 versions of universalism. So be very careful not to include everyone into the same category. The first version of universalism, and we'll talk about this when I have Nick on, the first version of universalism is that all religions, everything, eventually leads to God. This is what's general universalism. There is a Christian version, okay? And the Christian version of universalism essentially says, it's sort of like Calvinism on crack, in this sense, that eventually Christ's atoning death and sacrifice will be applied to everyone, and everybody is still saved in Christ. So these people will say salvation is still through Christ. There is no other name in which people can be saved by, but Christ will be applied to everyone, and everybody will be saved. For me, the first one is definitely heretical. The second one is incorrect. I think it's biblically inaccurate. It's incorrect. And maybe we can deal with this on the stream as to whether we should consider that a heresy or not. because the qualifier changes things a little bit, in that salvation is through Christ still, no matter what. And at that point, I might be able to just say it's wrong, it's unbiblical, but not necessarily a heresy. Okay. I wasn't trying to be offensive to all my Calvinist friends, by the way, but you see what I mean, right? Like, it's just forced on everyone and everyone gets saved. Hey, we got one more subscriber, so we're not out now at 5798. Can we do 2 and then I can end the stream? 2 more subscribers. Is there anyone out of the 15 people that are watching this who is actually not subscribed? I'm curious. The second one denies that belief is a requirement. Yeah. No, they can. I'm sure they can qualify it the way a Calvinist qualifies it. They will believe once they're regenerated. I mean, I don't know if they do or not. I'm just saying they could. And so therefore belief is not going to be an issue there. Calvinism is a moron teaching. Universalism is a moron teaching. Burning in hell for eternity is a moron teaching. Would it count if I unsubscribed and subscribed again? No, it wouldn't. Oh, man. Arthur, have you ever found yourself hiding the full extent of your beliefs from friends and family that you know? I got convicted a little earlier about how I do that a lot. It's kind of annoying. You shouldn't do that. No. I've never had that issue. I know friends that have had it. And our life circumstances were different, and the reactions and our personalities are different. I kind of like to jump into fire both feet. And so I never shied away from that. But when you say full extent of your beliefs, there are things that I might have held to or I'm sympathetic towards that I don't share with people. Not the only reason I would do that is because I just don't have the energy to have a debate over something which is a non-issue for me, right? So that would probably be it. But like when it comes to actual like I don't know what you mean with the full extent of your beliefs. I'm looking at like all the beliefs I have. When it comes to my faith in Jesus and your faith in Jesus, never shy away from doing that. Always stand on that. If you were convicted, if it's on the gospel issue, if it's like I'm a Christian, I follow Jesus, I believe in Jesus, the conviction is a correct conviction. I'm glad you were convicted, if that's what it is. If it was some secondary issue or something like that, maybe you have good reason not to want to share it with them because you don't want to have a certain kind of annoying conversation. Unlike someone around here, I don't have weird alternative accounts, so I can't help you, King. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. He meant oxymoron, not a moron. Okay. Good save, bro. Good save.
This is a sickness of the highest order.
I love that. I love it. Hey, they're morons. They're morons. It's like Oprah Winfrey. And for you, some for you, some for you. Oh man, I'm specifically waiting for. Got an interesting email. Wow. Okay. This is hilarious. So I just, this is cool, guys. I'll announce this. So I just got an email from the Bible college I graduated from, and it says, "Hi there, Arthur. Greetings from the Bible college, and I'm reaching out on behalf of the president and a certain pastor that referred us to you as a fantastic example of a person living out their God-given calling in the years following your time as a student here. Would you be willing to connect with me regarding a possibly featuring you in the alumni story? Please let us know. I can send over some prompt questions and get us started. Thank you for your time. Look forward to hearing back. P.S. Fun fact, it looks like we were classmates." The person who's writing this. Looks like we were classmates together. You graduated when I was a sophomore, so you probably never had classes together. I might have actually been her TA if she took a certain class at a certain semester. That's cool. Yeah, what do you guys think? Shall we do it? I think so. I'm doing a bunch of stuff, so I think there's a lot to say. Lots of ministry involvement, so that's so cool. Humbled. I am. I am. I really am. You can probably see the smile on my face, man. Yeah, there's a big difference between an oxymoron and a moron. Both things about religion and other ideas count under my problem, by the way. It's been a thing for many years now. Actually, now that I think about it. Yeah, again, it might just be your personality. I would just say then it's a good thing that you're being challenged in your personality to grow out of that. Don't back down, man. Don't back down. I mean, I think there's a wise place and areas in which we probably should back down, but just don't make that a regular thing. Hey, what's going on? Greetings. Do it, Arnold says. I will. Don't ask us. Why? Oh, Arthur, how's your new child? I remember not too long ago that you mentioned your wife being pregnant. Maybe it's a lot longer ago than I remember. But how's that going? Hope all is well. So she is on the 8th of September. She will be 8 months old. Her name is Areni. She is wonderful and beautiful. It's a really, really fun kid. She didn't let us sleep last night. We're sleep training her, and she is very stubborn and just cried for hours until she got tired and knocked out. Kind of sounds like unusual and cruel and unusual punishment, but it's important. And man, we did everything yesterday, playing music for her, and we did everything without actually picking her up. But I gave up at one point and just knocked out. But yeah, thank you for asking. She is good. That's our 4th child. Hey, a lot of you guys are new. How about I have my wife back on, and we do a stream together, and y'all can ask her questions. Maybe you guys can ask her questions about me. We just surpassed 5,800 subscribers. We are at 5,802 subscribers, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Congratulations to all of us. Areni is not sunny in English. That's not what Areni means. Thanks for that. Got into a conversation a few hours ago with a friend and felt like I was arguing at like 70% power or something. Not that the talk was contentious or anything. I was hiding a lot. Yeah, man, kids can cry a long, long time. Oreni is a place in Armenia, and Oren, which is the male version of the name, instead of Oreni, has a reference to mountains. So, cue Six Flags music. So cool stuff. We hit it, guys. Excellent. So, 58:02. I gotta go because I gotta go to a high school football game. Hang out with some high schoolers, see them. Their summer is over. My summer is over officially. Not Arevik. No. Areni. Yeah, and my children have very Armenian names because that matters quite a bit to me. Well, hey, it's been good hanging out with you guys. I don't stream on the weekends. So no Saturday, no Sunday. Monday, I'm going to try to do it. There's a lot of stuff going on because our kids are starting school. So hopefully I'll be able to stream Monday. Okay, nice. Bring the better half on. Noted. I will let her know that. I actually told her, people want you to come on the stream again. And she said, no, they would have to send in questions. And then if we have that, then I can come on. So I'm going to try to convince her. I'm a lot more spontaneous when it comes to these things. I'm a lot more talkative than she is. And so I'm going to try to convince her not to do it with that, or we'll just have something where people send and submit questions for her, and then she'll know what's going on. What else? Yeah, hopefully I'm gonna have that short up and running today. It's a political post, you guys. It's meant to be funny. I suppose I'm gonna get some. If it does well, people are gonna come at me. So I know kind of what I'm doing. It is a political post. I don't do political posts, but it's just too funny not to do this. And it kind of shows a certain kind of insanity, I would say, in certain political circles. So look out for that. It's a short, and maybe some of you guys will enjoy sharing that, and it'll be posted on TikTok. It'll be posted here. It'll be posted on Instagram as well. So look out for that. God bless you guys. I will see you guys hopefully Monday, because I really want to get into the New Testament, do my genre studies. I've had a lot of feedback to that. People are really enjoying it. So if you haven't checked out the playlist that teaches you the basics of biblical interpretation and genre, go check that out. It'll benefit you quite a bit. If you want to support this ministry, do so on Patreon. We'd really appreciate that as well. Also, you're instigating now. No, it's just you'll see what I mean, man. It's you'll see what I mean. Okay, most of you guys have left. I'll see you guys. Take care. God bless.